This is a demonstration video that will show you how to construct a continuous bound placket. And what a continuous bound placket is it is a type of finishing that typically takes the shape of a V along the bottom edge of a sleeve that you would then attach the bottom edge of the sleeve to the cuff so that your cuff will expand for you to put your arm, your hand through, and then there's typically some sort of button closure along the cuff. So that's what the placket is. There are typically a few different styles of placket, so this finishing of the V shape along the edge of the bottom edge of your sleeve where you would attach your cuff to, but we're just going to be doing the continuous bound placket as a sample this time, and then you're also going to be doing a faced placket, and there is also, let me think, what other type of plackets are there? Gosh, all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank, but I know that there's a third type of placket that I'll provide you with some more information on. But just know that there are different ways that you can finish that V shaping. Oh, it's a tailored or a shirt placket, and that's, I think we probably run into the continuous bound placket and the shirt placket more often than the faced one. But again, it all depends on your final product and what you want to have the finished edge of that sleeve be for attaching it to the cuff. So just know that there's a couple different ways to do this, and I'll provide you with some more information about plackets in a supplemental PowerPoint presentation that'll be uploaded onto Folio. So let's first go ahead and look at our pattern pieces. Envision this as being our sleeve piece, so the bottom edge of our sleeve. So this is along this bottom edge, or the opening of the widest part of the V here. That's where you would attach your cuff to the bottom edge here, and then the top portion where you have some stay stitching direction, that would be the rest of the sleeve. So that would go upward into the curve of the cap that is then attached to the armhole of a bodice. And then we have our rectangle, or small rectangular piece, which is our continuous bound placket, the actual piece that we are putting into this V shaping on the bottom of our sleeve. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is transfer these lines, this V-shaped line, from your pattern to your sleeve. It might be a little difficult to see, but what I used was tracing paper and my soft tracing wheel to go ahead and transfer those V-shaped markings. You can do that on the top or the underside of your fabric, because we'll be stitching over that. And then also you want to just kind of pay attention to this placket piece, this rectangular placket piece, and it says along the top edge you're going to 1/4 inch fold down and press, and then you're going to want to mark this 1/4 inch line. So what I've done is I've already gone ahead and folded down and pressed that 1/4 inch on the top, and then I know it's a little difficult to see, but you're going to want to take your ruler, line up that raw edge at your 1/4 inch marking line, and then go ahead and transfer that line onto your fabric. I already did mine in blue, again, just because it's a little difficult to see, but it's on there. So you're just going to want to make sure that you have those markings to go ahead and start. So once you have your top 1/4 inch folded down on your placket and this other line marked, you're kind of prepped and ready to go. And the same for your sleeve piece here, with that triangle marked on your sleeve pattern piece. So after you get those marking done, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in rows of stitching along that triangle shape. So we're going to go, hopefully you can see it on this pattern a little bit better. What we're going to do is we're just going to do a row of stitching, of reinforcing stitching, up one side of the triangle of the placket, and then we're going to stop, pivot our needle, and then come back down the other side. And just do that row of stitching, and then we'll come back in and we'll slash with our scissors and cut up into the middle of this this center V shape here. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to want to shorten our stitch length when we do this, because since this is reinforcing stitching here, we want to make sure that nothing jumps out at us. So again, we're starting at one edge. Let's go ahead and do a quick back tack after we shorten our stitch length. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that down to 1. And again, it's going to be fairly short, so just know that it might take you a little bit longer to get around this V shape than it normally would have, just because we have these very short stitch lengths. And it's just because those feed dogs are feeding that fabric through a lot slower than before. And then when I get up to that point on the V, I want to stop with my needle in the down position, rotate that fabric around, and then come down the other side of the V. And I'm just letting the feed dogs kind of feed that fabric through as it wants to. And then when I get to the end there, I'm going to do just a quick back tack and be good there. Raise my needle and presser foot and go ahead and trim those thread tails. And those stitching lengths are pretty close together, so just be aware of that. And then before we forget, let's go ahead and reset our stitch length to 2.5, just so we don't forget that. And then what we're going to do is we want to take our scissors and just cut right up the center line of that V, being careful that as we approach the tip of the V that we don't accidentally cut through our stitches, but we really want to try to get that as close as possible. Alright, so you can hopefully see there that I really snipped all the way to the top of that V, and if you're a little bit nervous, snip close, and then you can always come back and kind of adjust that and snip it a little bit more if you need. Alright, then what we're going to do is we are going to open that up. Okay, so see how this fabric will now spread to almost be a straight line, and that's what we want to do. We want to take our placket piece now, and what we have is we have a folded edge and an unfolded edge here. So what we want to do is we want to pin the unfolded edge. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this around so that I have my triangle that I slashed open far away from me, so it's away from here. And what I want to do is I want to, with right sides together, I want to pin my rectangle placket, the edge that does not have that fold on it. You can kind of see the fold here. I want to pin that to the opening of this V shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at one end with my right sides together and put some pins in here. Just matching up those raw edges and just work my way down the edge. And I don't know if you can see that there, but you can kind of see my blue line, and that's my 1/4 inch marking line. And so I want to go ahead and try to put those pins in right there along that line to make sure that my future stitch line will be very flat. Okay, and I'm just working my way down this line. And when I get to that center point, I just want to try to keep that as flat as possible and try not to fold any fabric back along there. And it's going to kind of be a little difficult because there's a folding that naturally wants to occur, but just don't put a pin in there. So just kind of jump over that center point, keeping everything flat, and just not putting a pin in that fold. So I have a fold that's going on, but I can move it around. Okay, so that's what you want to be able to do. And then just continue pinning, and it looks like I might have my placket might be a little bit longer than my sleeve opening, but that's okay. We can just trim that off when we're done. Alright, so once you get all these pins down and with those raw edges lined up, we want to baste, put a basting line in, and then stitch this with the sleeve side up. So even though we have it pinned in this direction, we want to stitch so we can keep an eye on this extra fold as we stitch and kind of jump over that. So let's go ahead and elongate our stitch length to 4, which is our basting length, and we're going to sew it 1/4 inch. So run this raw edge right along those 1/4 inch markings, which almost line up with the raw edge of our with the inside edge of our presser foot. So go ahead, and since we're basting, we're not going to worry about doing a back tack at this point. We really just want to keep these pieces held together. All right, and what we want to do as we approach this point where are the top of our V, we want to just kind of get at that as carefully as possible. I'm going to stitch to about the top of it, and then I'm going to rotate this fabric around. And I'm going to have a very small little pleat at the top, but it's not going to be anything really too major. I need to pull my pins out as I go. And this will disappear into some of our next steps to go ahead and finish this edge here. So if you have a little bit of a pucker, it's not the end of the world, because it'll be disappearing shortly. All right, so we just put our basting in. I want to go back and trim that up. Then what we want to do is we want to shorten that stitch length, and just to kind of give you a look at what we did is that we will have a little bit of kind of little puckering or gathering that occurs, but hopefully we'll be able to trim that out here and have it lay flat in a moment. So what we want to do is we now want to stitch over that basting line. So shorten your stitch length to 2.5, and we're just going to go just inside about a thread's length. We're going to run our stitching. Here's our raw edge here. We want to sew just to the inside of that edge, or of that stitch line that we just put in, that basting edge. So maybe it's, depending on our reference point, it's away from the raw edge. So but in between that and our short stitching from our V here. So again, just run that right along that edge as close as you can, and we're going to go ahead and do a back tack at the beginning and end of this stitch length, end of this stitch line. And again, we just want to make sure that this basting stitch won't show when that time comes for this seam to take shape. So just going slow here, and then once I need to shift that fabric around, I'm going to have a little bit of bulk, but hopefully nothing I can't handle. Alright, and then when I get to the end of that line, I want to do a quick back tack, raise that needle and presser foot, and then trim those threads. Okay, everything is looking pretty good so far. And the next step of what we want to do is we want to press this seam flat to really kind of embed those stitches. So we want to lay this fabric out and just press that flat. We want to try to press this seam open, and then come to the front side and press it flat on top. So make sure that you press that seam open first, and then flat. And the construction packet says to kind of embed those stitches, so what we're doing is we're kind of making them disappear. So that's what we're going to do. We want to press everything flat, and then eventually what we want to do, we're going to press it open on the back side, press it flat from the front side, and then you want to come back in and press your seam allowances towards your binding. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the video and do that off camera. So if you would, again, please make sure that you press your seam open, press it flat from the top side, and then press those seam allowances towards the continuous bound placket, so this rectangular add-on piece. Alright, so we'll start back up in a moment.